setting it up. He's doing it. Yeah. Come on, Lisa, do your thing. Done redirecting. And it looks like we're live. I think we're live now.
We have been live.
Okay.
I think so too, Eddie. I think it's been a minute.
We have been live.
All right. Well, this is how things go always. So Eddie is throwing back a shot. Good gracious.
That's the way you start.
I love it.
Amazing, Eddie.
Live from
Champagne.
Texas.
Hey, you know what? I'm making French 75s, and I've got a full bottle of champagne, and I'm going to finish it.
Where's my invite? Come on, Eddie.
I'm going to finish it. So if I have to drink it straight, I'll just drink mimosas, you know?
You better not be driving anywhere.
Oh, where's
Not
he got to
until
go?
3.
He's in Houston.
Yeah.
Not in 3. Not till 3. Then we're going to the
Yeah,
beach.
you got
And
time.
then we'll have White Claws.
All right. Well, welcome everybody, and welcome Lauren Paylor, our special guest today. And
Hi.
as always, live from Houston, Edward Harris.
Hi, everyone.
And we have Becky, of course, and Otto here in hand. I'm sure that Thor will make an appearance at some point as well.
Yeah, he will. Right now, he's in trouble.
Oh,
Oh.
Lauren
Yeah,
has 2 dogs, right, Lauren?
Yeah, I have Rufus and Dozer. Maybe they'll make an appearance later.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So thank you, Lauren, for joining us.
Yeah.
These little weekend sessions that we're doing here, getting to know people that come into contact with us through our business, makers of different kinds. Last week, we talked with Sarah Brown, who's one of our beef farmers that takes the mash.
Nice.
And this week, we're going to the other side of the production aspect of the business, to a hospitality person, a bartender, somebody who's worked in the DC bar scene for quite a while now, right?
Yeah, it's been a while, a lot longer than what my nursing career was. So I mean, I compare it that way.
Yeah, my mom follows us on Facebook, and she saw that you were, a nurse in your bio. And my mom was a 30-year OR nurse, and so she's like, "Oh, I want to hear about her nursing career." I was like, "You're gonna have to tune in."
I love it. I love it.
So
Different kind of caretaking now.
exactly.
Yes, but a lot more pleasant and fun.
Yes.
Hopefully less bodily fluids.
Yes.
Man, you'd think, but you never know.
Yes, but that's always, you're right.
I'm sure cleaning up a bathroom or something after a Saturday night is maybe sometimes involved.
Yeah.
At least it is
We
at
don't
the
need to go there.
it is at the distillery. I've had my share.
So is that your home bar?
It is our home bar.
That
yeah.
is impressive.
It is Scott's baby.
Wow.
We got the little DC brow and things over here, and it's
Wow.
quite a nice
I mean,
bar.
were you just gonna sit there and like act like it was not behind you?
He does that a lot.
We've had a lot of these where somebody that we're talking to thinks it's one of those virtual backgrounds.
I thought it was a virtual background. I was like, there's no way. I mean, it makes sense. You make whiskey, right? So
Well,
you
you
have
know,
all the-
and he also paved the way for the construction that bar took by taking us all to Costa Rica. So I mean,
Ooh,
he snuck it in.
I love it.
It used to be a little bit brief history of this bar. It used to be the playroom for the boys. We've lived in this house ever since the boys were babies.
Yeah.
And Eddie's 23 and Luke is almost 21. And when they were getting old enough, I was always like, oh, one of these days I'd love to have a bar in this space. And now that they're older, it's going to be my space, and I'm going to make it into what I want it to be.
I
not
love
have it
it.
be full of Legos and stuff. And so then I built it, and then the boys were like, "Hey, Dad, pretty cool bar." I'm like, "No, not for you."
Well, see, he made the mistake in building it when we were still in high school. So that doesn't. So it didn't work because a high schooler with a dad who has a bar has a playroom. That's a high schooler's playroom.
Well, and now, unfortunately, it's getting used for exactly that purpose, and there's all kinds of glassware and bottles all over the
I love it.
It's nice.
Well, wouldn't you rather it be used? A happy bar is a
That's
used
right.
bar.
A happy
There
bar
you
is a
go.
used bar.
Exactly.
As long as
So
everybody stays cool.
So Scott, I have one room that needs a bar. Just let me know when you're available. Okay.
It'll be half the room.
I love that. Yeah. So, just thinking back, to when I met both of you, well, all of you, because I met Eddie when he was young, much younger.
Yes.
But yeah, it's so funny to see how relationships that we formed so long ago transition and change into what they are now. And I was a little baby bartender, and
Southern Efficiency.
Yeah, of Southern Efficiency when the Roundstone Throwdown happened with Chad back in the day. It was so much fun. Yeah, and that was actually my first competition ever, but the first time I made my own craft cocktail. And I made the Loco Bananas. And it's funny because that cocktail ended up featured in DC, the District Frame magazine, which was on Tap magazine for the Black Bartender series they were doing at Allegory. So that was last year. So like a blast from the past, 2016 up until 2019. It was like, wow, that was crazy. But yeah, the relationship with Catoctin Creek has always been strong. Like from the passenger.
I see that, the passenger shirt.
Yeah.
Another
So yeah.
throwback.
Did you work as a passenger or not?
No, so I was a frequent regular there, but it's funny because I patronized the passenger in the Columbia Room when they were in the old location.
Yep.
And that's how I met Derek. And then that's the reason why I started working at Southern Efficiency and Mockingbird Hill and Eat the Rich. And yeah, it's just so funny to think of how all that, happened. And I remember going on my first distillery tour, was at Catoctin Creek, and and then seeing Becky as a female distiller, I was like, this is amazing. So yeah, it's just great.
Yeah, we, I remember back in the day, like the Passenger when it was on 7th and what kind of Massachusetts over in that area, right? Across from Mount Vernon, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
It was the place, like everybody industry-wise went there, it was probably one of the only places. And when we were first starting our company, they found out about us before we knew who they were. We were just starting up, and they were like calling us to come out and see us.
So much support there. I feel like
so much support.
Yeah, there was a lot of support from the start, and it was so great. Like we had such strong relationships with all of the local distilleries. That's and then as Ivy City really blew up.
That was so different from when, like 2009 when we started, there wasn't anything. And then it was like, and then you started just like a couple at a time, but then it just went like.
Yeah, come 2014, 2015, Ivy City had like 4 or 5 distilleries. And I was like, this is amazing. This is so cool, Because you could never really associate DC with being a city that had distilleries.
That's right. And that's one of the cool things about the industry is just how much variety there is and how much more we still get coming,
Yeah.
Eddie,
I'm interested in what you think, because I know that you were a little younger, but like kind of seeing how everything changed, not at the time being in the industry, like what was that for you? What was that like for you?
My career in the industry?
Or I guess viewing it out, being on the outside.
My time was good. I mean, I definitely was a little bit different because I started more in Loudon. I started in Loudon.
Do you really remember when we opened and how that there were many or no distilleries, or were because you were?
I'm going to tell you this. Here's what I will say. I will say this: before the distillery, there wasn't even a Harris Teeter. Our grocery store in Purcellville was shit. That's all I remember. And then as businesses started to build in the area started to get nicer. That's the thing that I remember around the time growing up around the distillery, because as the distillery, you guys started right around the time that Purcellville kind of had the brewery.
Oh, that's interesting to have that parallel.
Loudon, you guys started your business around the same time that Loudon had the brewery boom, where suddenly also, besides just wineries, suddenly a bunch of breweries popped up. And I noticed that you guys timed it right, because everyone else was a brewery and you guys were the only distillery.
Oh, very cool.
And so it was like, it was like as the area grew, it's like, yes, one Loudon was built, and suddenly we had like nice restaurants in Loudon, and Percival suddenly, you know, a town that once only had like a Food Lion, which is like the worst of the worst. It's like now we have, you know, there's a Harris Teeter, which is like in Virginia anyway, that's like middle class wet dreams. You know, so I mean, it's like and I think you guys have a Chipotle too now in Percival.
Yeah, we're really highfalutin at this point.
Like you guys, you know what I mean? Like the town has grown. Like it's grown so much since I was a kid, and Loudon has grown so much since I was a kid. Where you know, I haven't lived there in a while, and the last time I was home, I was like, wait, we have one of those now.
Yeah, that's actually really
every time I would drive past like a shopping center, I'd be like, wait, you guys have one of those now?
Yeah.
Like,
well, you know, in the past 10 years, you know, the cocktail scene has evolved dramatically too, because like, you know, when we first started, if you wanted a good craft cocktail, you went to DC, you know, and there were a half a dozen, maybe a dozen places that you could go that were like, you know, the Passenger and Columbia Room and places like that you could get like a really high-end cocktail.
Now you
here at the time, if you went to a restaurant and you said, "Bring me a Manhattan," you know, the vermouth was crap. The whiskey,
the cherry was bright red.
Yeah, and the cherry was bright red, right? And you know, I remember going into restaurants and asking for a Manhattan, and the bartender brings me a martini, or asking for an old fashioned, and they forgot to put simple syrup in it, or sugar of any kind. You know, so it was just like, and then in those 10 years, you know.
You can get a craft cocktail in Percival now.
Yeah. And in those 10 years, you know, some of the cadre of people, you know, who were some of the lions of DC cocktail, moved out, you know, into the suburbs. And now, you know, we have places out here, you know, like Sense of Thai with Jeremy Ross, you know, who was at the Oval Room and things like that. And so now we have some decent offerings out here, and it's very nice to have it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Ross is a good example of that. He's a good example of the kind of DC bartender coming out to Loudon, because he's got Sense of Thai, and I mean Sense of Thai. I think too, you know, I even now I work in a high-end Chinese restaurant, and the only other Asian restaurant I've ever been to with a bar comparable to the one I work at now is Sense of Thai.
Yeah,
I mean, because it's. And it's because Ross has a great bar. I mean, that is a great place. I love that they turned it into a tiki bar in the summer. It's everything about it. He does a great job out there.
I love that.
And that's a perfect example of One Loudon too, which is the area I was talking about. That, you know, I kind of, as I grew up, that was one of my first restaurant jobs. Like my first job as a server in a restaurant was in One Loudon.
Yeah,
so that's where I started.
All right, so this is the Lauren Paylor show, so let's get on with Lauren's here. So Lauren, tell us a little bit about your history, you know, coming into DC, and then, you know, some of your journey that you've seen as you've seen the DC scene change.
Yeah, for sure. So I came in 2010, was going to nursing school, and had no knowledge of what the food and beverage industry was in general, but realized very soon and early on the talent that DC had. And it's just so interesting because everything that you all just spoke about, it resonates, because coming here, it was very obvious that there were spots in DC that were doing everything like on another level, right? Cocktails were great, food was delicious, distilleries and breweries were booming. And what's interesting is to kind of, touch on all the points that you hit. The distilleries were creating really lovely juice. The breweries were making really great beer. The wineries were making excellent wine. So it makes sense that, there was a lot more care and craft that went into creating cocktails that utilized those products. Otherwise, what's the point, right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like now Virginia is kind of comparable to, some of the other alcohol producing regions like California, because there was I remember a time when people are like, oh, you drink Virginia wine?
Yeah, and that's sad because I remember being
good.
Yeah, I remember being in DC as a baby bartender, and people would say that to me, and I was like, "But I think it's delicious. Like, have you actually had the Virginia wine?"
Paylor is a good example.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because I realized thinking back that so Catoctin Creek was the first distillery I went to, but en route you pass a bunch of breweries and about a bunch of distilleries. So I mean, a bunch of wineries. So for me, it was like, oh, this kind of opened a door for me. Like, oh, there's so much like around me that I can access, right? And soon enough was able to kind of expose myself to all of that. But to Eddie's point, like there's such great product like right in front of us, and that relationship that was very much integrated in like Southern Efficiency, Mockingbird Hill, Ether Rich, to have established relationships with farmers and purveyors and local breweries and distilleries and wineries was so important. And I mean, for me, even to this day, like that's something that really resonates and is very much something that is important to me when I'm making my, cocktail menu or whatever it be. So yeah, it's really interesting to see how things have changed, but more people care, more people are utilizing these products in a way where they're paying their respects and showing their respects. They're doing the work to understand what goes into making these products, which is a beautiful thing. And most importantly, how they pair with food, right? Because drinks and food go together.
Yeah, I always say it's part of eating.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
Thor heard food and he went, what?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. I think we did benefit at a time when the local food scene was influencing the local drinking scene, and people were more interested in what they were eating. You'd go into a restaurant and it wouldn't just say like, chicken fricassee, it'd be like, well, the chicken was from Bluemont Farms and
exactly
something like that, right? Farm range, free range, whatever.
Exactly.
It seems like culturally, like the generation that's experiencing this, you say millennials, I guess, their parents or their grandparents, were eating, Stouffer's, lean cuisine, all this packaged processed food from the freezer. And they weren't, it was Hostess and Doritos and all this stuff. And they were looking for something with a little more meaning and a little more nutrition and all that kind of stuff.
Well, kind of as I think the pendulum was swinging, and it swung from, a lot of people making most of their food earlier to everything's pre-prepared convenience as more and more women go into the workforce. And then kind of you see that reaction to that where people want something that's more based in where they are, that's prepared with care, that's made from natural ingredients, which is a big thing because there is stuff with packaged food that isn't the best for you.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it too. It's like food that tastes good, absolutely, but also I think people are a little bit more conscious about how drinking and eating affects us and our bodies and and our longevity, right? Because we saw this transition from just making cocktails to being thoughtful about like alcohol, ABV, right? Yeah. Alcohol value. Yeah. We saw that people are eating less meat and they're eating a lot more plant-based diets, and so I think with everything that you said too, there's just a lot more there's a lot more efforts in ensuring that whatever we are putting into our bodies is good for us. And I mean, quality, right? I mean, the same way that you choose mash that is appropriate to create a delicious product, you're also ensuring that it's good product, good quality.
Yeah, drinking less, drinking better.
Exactly.
It's not about how much, it's not, but it's more about what the experience is. And I think that's the same really with food.
If you're going to eat something, at least for me, if you're going to eat something, at least make it worth it. I mean, don't just eat something.
That's true.
Eat something that you're going to enjoy. Eat something that's not just, the same thing every night. Try to expand your horizons, because you can learn a lot about, cultures and people from the food that they eat and the drinks that they drink. And so it's like, don't take food too lightly, because it's an important piece of communication and language. It's an important thing, and people start to realize that.
Yeah, I agree.
Campbell's chicken noodle soup and biscuits and gravy, although both of those things are
delicious. I was like sitting over here like, Eddie, what are you talking about? I love both of those things.
Eddie loves both of those things too. I can tell you from experience.
I'm just saying that, there's more out there. There's like, there's that amazing Ethiopian restaurant in DC that
Oh my gosh. It's not even open anymore.
Which one?
Closed?
I know what you're talking about.
The one that won a Michelin star or something like that?
Oh, no, maybe we're talking about...
Mom, the one by Georgetown.
I don't remember.
No, we're talking about two different ones. There was an Ethiopian restaurant right near Howard Theater that closed like a year ago. And they built a taco restaurant there. And I was so sad. But yeah, no, you're right. Everything you're saying is like so accurate. But it brings up another interesting point. Like, how has drinking culture and even food culture changed and transitioned in the times we're living in right now?
Right.
I mean, personally, for me, I've seen more people purchasing Blue Apron. I've seen more people, exactly. I've seen more people being more careful about how they shop. Whether it's if they're using coupons or if they're ensuring that what they're purchasing has a sale because they're eating more at home, right? And then I've seen people who, when they do decide to eat out, are way more selective. And it's just interesting to see how this pandemic has changed the way that people drink and eat.
Well, here in Texas, it's now legal to get to-go cocktails. I don't know about up there, but
yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's been a big change.
You can get to-go cocktails, and I hope it stays, because listen, when this pandemic's over, if I can get a bunch of craft cocktails to go, you bet your ass I'm going to get a bunch of craft cocktails to go. I'll have old fashions from all the bars in my house.
I will tell you though, one of the things I miss is not just getting the cocktails. Like, we've seen this with food too. So, we've been getting a lot of carry-out dinners from our favorite restaurants. Want to keep them supported, keep them going, because it's tough times for bars and restaurants right now, even still. And, but still that it's taught us something, because, we would get like a whole family meal, bring it home, or with cocktails, and have it. And then we would set it out on the buffet, and everybody would take their plate, fill it, eat it, and then go, right? And in the bar and in the restaurant, there's an element there of social that's missing if you just bring it home, right?
It's communal,
was an important part of that bar life, was like, you go there and you take your time, right? You wait for the server or the bartender to come to you, and then you order, and then you wait some more while they fill the drinks, and then you enjoy yourself without being rushed through it, and then everybody goes off to watch TV or their phones or whatever, so that's an aspect that I think I miss, and I can't wait for us.
I agree.
Well, and everyone wear your goddamn mask, and
yes,
yes, please.
And and to expand on that, I mean, it's the same feeling as when you're sitting at a bar and you start talking to the stranger next to you, and you make a new friend, even if it's just for the night. It's just that kind of like, when you're at a bar, it's, to quote Cheers, everyone's like family. It really is that I've been watching that show, and it really does capture the bar experience. I mean, everyone talks to each other when you're at a bar. I mean, if you're that person at the bar who's kind of like, oh, don't talk to me, you're kind of the weird one there, because that's part of the thing that I miss the most, I think, about the bar, which is the same thing as what you were saying, Dad.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because it's like, well, are we ever going to get that element back? Are we ever going to get that aspect back, right?
I hope so.
I hope so too.
Till we do. I think it's going to be
I think we have time. Once we have a reliable vaccine, I think, hopefully, fingers crossed, that we start to get back to normal life.
I think so too. I think it will never be the normal that we knew, but that doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind wearing the masks to the grocery store. We can keep that. I mean, I've been in the grocery store with some weird coughing people, and the masks aren't. I can't complain. I don't mind wearing masks out in public sometimes.
I hear that. But yeah, I don't think it'll ever be. I don't ever think it'll be the same. But again, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, because I think what's happened is it's exposed a lot of things that could use some improvement.
Yeah, I mean,
so especially in the hospitality sector, I know, Lauren, you've been doing some work with.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You have a lot of work that you've been doing during this in kind of talking about those things.
Yeah,
it's about your effort there.
Yeah, so Focus on Health is a business that Alex, a bartender based out in Denver, and I co-founded together. And the idea behind it initially was, you know, to provide programming and resources and outreach for hospitality individuals to better take care of their mental health, their physical health, and their financial health. And, you know, when Black Lives Matter movement and COVID really took over a lot of the conversation, we took a major pivot and realized that if we focused on the importance of dialogue and understanding what we're feeling, then there's a much bigger conversation there. And the programming that we've created, I'm really, 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 really proud of, and it's helped a lot of people. And we have some more that's about to roll out that I'm very excited for people to take advantage of. But it's just really important, especially during this time, whether it's maintaining a routine, eating the right way, moving your body, meditating, cutting back on, you know, phone time, social media time, TV time, because it's, I mean, it'd be very, 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 you know, dishonest of me to sit here and say I haven't had bad days. And a lot of what we're trying to do is be very honest and raw with the conversation and real, because we want people to understand that, you know, we might be doing well on the internet, but we also have our difficulties behind the closet. And I think it's important to be authentic in that way.
Well, it's so hard too in a industry like hospitality, bartending, serving, where so much of you know, you're required to put on
A happy face.
A facade,
a happy face,
yeah,
outgoing, and you're not always in that space.
of
And
course.
I remember, I think it was it Maggie Campbell or Megan Ashton's series, where they were talking about how challenging it can be in an industry where you're supposed to look like you're always up,
Yep.
when you're not up, and how
Yep.
hard it can be on your mental health when you
Of
have to
course.
do this.
Yeah.
That kind of, you know, it is true, because it kind of reminds me, you know, of the same kind of aspect of, you know, a comedian's life, where it's, you know, when you have to pretend that you're feeling a certain way, even it's like in any aspect, because I think as a bartender, we also are a certain amount of entertainers, and
Yeah, exactly.
and you see that a lot in entertainers, you know, to any degree, where it's like when you have to pretend that you're feeling a different way than you are because you have to please people, it can be very tasking.
Yeah, and
It can be very hard to put on a smile when you're not feeling like smiling, which, to a point, the masks help with.
Yes.
I mean, that's very true. And I think that that's exactly it. And what we're trying to really do is provide a platform where people will see that and understand that having the conversation is totally fine, or being vulnerable on the internet is fine. Like, you've seen posts I put up. I'm an open book. Everyone knows, you know, like, but that's just me. That's just how I am. And I don't force it. And I don't encourage people to force it. It should come very naturally. So, you know, we offer a writing workshop that helps people. The two series that we've launched, one on COVID, one on Black Lives Matter. And it was really amazing to have people come in and be able for the first time to have a conversation about this. Like, I didn't even realize this was bothering me, or, man, I didn't know that those were the feelings that I associated with this pandemic or with this movement. And it was just amazing. And you know, we work with a help tender who works and does something called music and movement, and it's physical fitness. And, you know, we work with this lovely lady based in Texas, Simone Mayers, and I'm going to put you in contact with her. And
great, yeah, please.
Yeah, she's a Reiki healer, and she is a yoga instructor. And, you know, it's just exploring all of these different things that I didn't even think I would be interested in, that I'm finding so helpful.
Grandma's interested in Reiki, right, Mom?
Oh, yeah?
She likes that. Uh-huh.
Yeah, my grandma likes a lot of that stuff.
I love it.
I love yoga. Yoga's my
So Lauren, like, what's it like in DC? You know, we don't get down there sadly as often as we'd like anymore, you know, because we're kind of stuck out here for the most part. What's it been like actually in DC, like for the Black Lives Matter, like the protests and things like that? Are they still going on, or is it settling down, or?
So I actually live in Wheaton, which is Silver Spring. I have been quarantining in Maryland for we're approaching 5 months. Wow. So I've been to DC probably 3 or 4 times. I have barely left my house. I'm just
So you're kind of like we are then.
Yeah.
Kind of like you are, but the times that I've gone into the city, it doesn't feel the same. It's quiet and it feels like sad and distant and disconnected, you know?
Probably is. I mean, you know who is.
Okay.
It's just been hard.
Moving on, Eddie. Moving on.
It's just been hard.
I don't say anything.
I understand where you're coming from, and I think the thing that has been difficult is just seeing that while there is unity, there is also divide.
Yeah.
Especially during a time where unity is so important.
Yeah, we need to be unified right now as a country when a pandemic is killing half of the population, you know?
Yeah. And a movement as well, right?
And we're not seeing that. We're seeing the opposite, and it's depressing and it's scary. And there's a lot of people who are scared, and there's a lot of people who are mad, and there's a lot of people out there who don't understand. And we have to do our best to help the people that we can, the people that are close to us.
And ourselves. It's so important to take care of ourselves too.
Exactly.
Yes, important.
I know, Lauren, you do a lot of working out. Like, you're amazing. I follow you on Instagram, and I'm inspired by it. And I always my release, it's physical, but it's a mental release too. With swimming. And
yes, that's right. You are a swimmer. I admire that because I can do it for like 5 seconds, and I'm like,
yeah. And so when the pools were closed, there's no real way to kind of do that at home, right? And so we did a few yogas and things like that, but it's just not, the same. And so when they started to phase back open the pool, and the pool is still like at like 0% capacity, this big Olympic pool has like 3 people in it.
Oh, wow.
So I feel quite safe is what I'm saying. But but it felt so good to get back into it, right? Get back into that routine. Yeah. So good. Well,
everyone has their thing.
Right.
I tell you, I miss working out. My ankle has been keeping me from yoga.
Yeah.
I usually do yoga. I miss it.
Yeah.
I've been feeling it.
Can you tell us a little bit about like what's now and what's next for you? Where do you see yourself going, and what do you see happening?
Becky and I have had this conversation many times.
Challenge.
It's just so crazy. So for me right now, I'm 28 years old, and I'm thinking back to like 10 years ago when I was sitting down, like deciding where to go to college and what I wanted to major in. And at the time I wasn't sure about my choice, but I knew that I loved learning. I loved teaching, and I loved people. And, there's so many things that those 3 things obviously are relevant towards, right?
Yes.
So after doing nursing, I was like, wow, I love this, but it's just so sad.
Yeah.
Introducing myself to hospitality, bartending specifically, I was like, this is so great because I can take something that is just so unique and obscure, but that everyone can relate to, or most people anyway, right?
Yeah.
And provide them with like a very unique experience because I can make it specific to a person. And then taking that, and it was like, oh my gosh, like the idea of winemaking and distilling is just so cool, like I can take, it's like cooking, right? You can take something and make something completely different out of it. So I'm leaning towards the direction of like being a distiller, or an owner of some, not a bar owner, but like an owner of a distilling company or something. But I think that I'm leaning very, very hard towards the direction of being able to make juice. And I've had this, I feel like Becky and I talk about this every few months, and I'm like, I should figure it out. And
it is fun and rewarding. I will say, if you want to buy a distillery, give me a call. I got one right now.
I have a couple, it's funny. I just started saving money, and I looked at my bank account. I was like, wow, this is the most money I've saved in a really long time. And I was like, I got a long way to go if I want to own a distillery.
You can also buy a distillery with sweat equity. So let me just put it that way.
It's been a lot of sweat. This summer, it's starting to sweat.
Oh my gosh. And last week we just got our air conditioning back. The air conditioning in the distillery was cut out. And so we actually had to shut down production for like a week because you can't.
Wow. No, it's just too hot.
Yeah.
It's too hot.
So
I will say we still got you beat.
Yeah, I know.
Got you beat down here.
I know.
It was 105 the other day.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
I didn't even leave the house. I was like, no, I'm not going anywhere.
Oh,
that's awful.
Let's transition from all this hot talk to cool cocktails. And Eddie has a cocktail that he designed this episode today in your honor, Lauren. And so why don't we have a cocktail and then we'll come back to you.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna go grab my ice, but I can hear you. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, Eddie Harris, you're up.
All right, everyone. Hold on, let me angle my camera. Can you see my?
Yep.
Hands perfect.
Awesome. Angle it a little bit. So I know Lauren's using the whiskey today, so I am making something with the gin. We are going to have blackberry mint French 75. So
that sounds good.
Yeah, I basically was sitting at home and I'm like, what do I love? And I was like, I love mojitos, I love bourbon smashes, I love mint in a cocktail, and I like berries in a cocktail. So let's just do it. So first off, we're going to take a mint sprig and we're just going to strip it of all of its leaves and put them in the shaker. Just like this. And it smells so good. I love pulling mint leaves off of a sprig because it just my hands then smell like fresh. And all right. So then we're going to start with this syrup that I made. This is a summer berry syrup, which I mean that's kind of the fancy way of saying it. It's just blueberries and blackberries, and brown sugar. So we're going to start out with 1/4 ounce of the summer berry syrup into the shaker. All right. And then we're going to do 1 ounce of gin. 1 ounce of gin. And then a 1/2 ounce of lemon juice. And then 1 ounce of tonic water. I'm using club soda because I don't like generic tonic water and I don't have tonic syrup, so. All right, and then you're gonna add ice and shake.
Like the perfect cocktail for the summer.
Yeah, I think so.
Be careful with all that soda in that shaker.
He only had a 1/2 ounce.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't that much. Otherwise, we'd have had an excitement that way.
An explosion. Our dog, we keep disappearing because our dog keeps getting into trouble down here. He's trying to find things to eat.
That's so funny.
All right, so you're gonna get some coupe glasses out. Nick and Nora, something with the stem. And you're going to strain it evenly between the two.
Ooh,
and it's gonna have that really pretty color from the berries. And if you get some mint leaf, like pieces of mint leaf in there, that's good because that's the garnish. Because I was too lazy to give it a real garnish, so.
Sounds really good.
When you're drinking at home, you can take some of those shortcuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to top it with champagne.
I love that.
Nice. Look at the color on that.
It's really pretty. Oh man, I wish that you could just like put it through the screen.
I know. We need the handout.
And let's see.
I love it.
Cheers.
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 Delicious. I love it. I love it. All
Pretty
right.
color.
I guess it's my turn.
I guess it's your turn, Lauren.
So whenever I make cocktails, I really like to think of the base spirit that I have in hand and figure out like what ingredients I can make to accent it. So I'm going to make an old-fashioned variation using the 80 proof Roundstone rye. What I did was I made essentially a grain syrup. So I took some rye berries or rye grain, toasted it, and then created like an orgeat.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I added some Szechuan peppercorn, a little
Oh,
fennel,
no kidding.
yeah, a little fennel seed, and then a little bit of black pepper, and then some honey and sugar, and made the syrup. And then, yeah, usually I would smoke the glass, but my torch died, so we're just gonna we're gonna forget that aspect.
That's
but yeah.
great. Yeah, you can always add on down the road.
Yeah, so with our old-fashioned, traditionally it's bitters, sugar, and spirit. So I'm gonna add 2 dashes of Angostura.
Ooh.
And then I'm gonna add a 1/4 ounce. This is a 2-to-1 syrup, so it's pretty rich. So only a 1/4 ounce is necessary. I'm building it in my glass because my ice machine doesn't have a lot of ice.
Quarantine cocktails, we have to do with these limitations.
Quarantine cocktail.
Yes, you know.
And then 2 ounces of spirit.
Oh, that's a nice healthy pour. That's what I like.
Yeah, and what it's gonna do is that syrup is just gonna heighten those grains that we have in the mash bill, it's just gonna be so tasty. I just wish I could pass it through the screen.
I know.
Ooh,
Give me one of yours.
I know, right? I am
go.
doing it's funny because this is for me, so I'm just gonna use my hands. I don't know why I'm like being all
Yeah, you're home.
It's just a habit, I suppose.
That looks beautiful.
After the video is over, Lauren, would you take a picture and send me a picture with the recipe? I'd love to put it
I
on the
will
website.
absolutely do that. Sorry, let me grab some more ice, make it picturesque.
Scott needs he keeps telling me he needs projects for this hot weather, and so he
Oh,
can
yeah?
make some green syrup.
Yeah, we've got some rye berries at the distillery.
You should make a green syrup.
You know what, Dad? Why not you make your own glassware line? Why not just blow some glass?
Glass.
Oh my gosh.
I'm still in the reupholstering all my furniture in my house.
Oh, you are doing that. That looks like
I
a lot of
honestly
fun.
don't know if I trust you with the glass blowing equipment.
He's built a bar. He does not need to build a
Glass blowing is hard.
Molten glass is not something you need to be touching.
No.
Glass blowing is really hard. I was watching a TV show not too long ago, and I was like, "Ooh."
It looks difficult, but if I had interest and if I wanted to learn, it would be kind of cool to know how to do it.
Yeah.
That didn't work as expected. My fan is literally right there. So, but yeah, and then I garnish with what would have been a torched cinnamon stick and an orange peel.
Oh, look! It's so great.
Looks delicious.
Cheers.
So good.
Cheers.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys, Lauren. This has been a very illuminating conversation. We really thank you for getting up on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Like your day off and all that.
Thanks for having me.
And I just love hearing more about what you're doing. It's been so cool to see how people are taking all these, it's been a really interesting time of reflection and change in a lot of things in society. And I'm just really excited to see so many people I know who are, really kind of deepening a connection to coming from where they are to where they want to be. And it's really a neat time.
Yeah. I don't know what the future holds. Like a lot of us are pivoting our lives, our businesses, all kinds of things in ways that we never thought we would. I mean, I never thought I would have had, hand sanitizer in my portfolio.
That's so cool though. Isn't that like amazing when we look back in the history books and it's like Potassium Creek, gin, brandy, hand sanitizer. Wait, what?
Right. But I do know, I always you know, when I was coming up in my career, you know, I was always worried about where I was going to go. And my father would always tell me, don't worry about anything. If you're talented, you'll always have something to do.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, I know that, you know, like we're going to expect some huge, great things out of you. And I'm just going to be able to say that I knew her back when she was just a wee baby bartender. So.
And that you still know me. So there you go.
Right.
Know you. Yes.
Yes. Don't forget us little people.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see what Eddie does. It's been great, you know, seeing Eddie as a 16-year-old and now a 23-year-old. So
Don't remind me, I'm getting so close to 30.
You're almost 30?
No, you are not.
I feel so old. I found a gray hair. I think it was yours, but I found a gray hair.
I would give anything to be 23 again.
Listen, you're still a babe in the woods, so compared to me. So, well, you guys have a great Sunday. Cheers to you all, and
thanks
so
for
much
having
for
me.
being part of our thing.
Hi, Otto.
Hope to see everyone in person sooner rather.
Yes, that would be so lovely.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Fingers
All
crossed.
right.